High School, and there are all sorts of different types of programs that we can do, like the one we're doing today. In the spring, there'll be meetings with the school psychologists that are more general, that you can come to and talk about whatever's on your mind and whatever our kids are facing. But we really want you to, there's another one, what's our date list? February 5th or 4th? We're doing a program, it's on the PYD website and the library website. At the library, based on the book called How to Raise an Adult. I don't know if some of you have read it. The author is Julie Lithcott-Ames. Ta-da! It's my very favorite book these days. And she's not joining us, but it's kind of, we're calling it Westport Parents Reads, the way Westport has Westport Reads. So not kind of read it, and it'll be professionally facilitated to talk about how we can take the principles and suggestions in the book and bring them into our own lives and parenting. But also just know that Liz and I are here for all of you, so should you have a need or feel like we need to bring a program to the district, whether it's for our whole community or just Staples, please reach out to us, no matter what you think is going on or what you hear from your kids, and we're happy to look into it and try to bring those programs to all of you. So reach out anytime.
Does that mean we're up?
You're up. Your turn.
With Mark? Oh, sorry. Introduce us, Mark, come on.
Good morning. As usual, we have so many special things that happen at Staples High School, day in, day out, week in, week out, and this complements the many. This has been an exciting week. Monday evening, our newly appointed, elected superintendent, Dr. Colin Palmer, was introduced. She'll be beginning July 1st. So that's a really exciting step for the entire learning community, Westport. Today, the guidance counselors, Deb Slocum, Leslie Hammer, and Vicki Capozzi, they're going to bring to light some of the things that we're doing in regards to course selection, how our students can juggle their schedules, how they can handle things from day to day. How do you implement all this stuff from your academics to your extracurriculars and all the other interests that you have? How do you balance all this? And our students do it very, very well, but at times it can be quite a pressure cooker. And what they're going to also talk about is the resilience and how you stay focused on things, how you proceed forward. When things get a little difficult, we don't abandon them. We find a way as to how we can incorporate it into our schedule without disrupting everything else. We're going to talk about those kind of things. We're going to talk about the course of selection, of course. And they're very well versed on it, and they do it every day. And what they also do is they see the issues that come up, pro and con. And they'll discuss some of that with you. There's going to be some question and answer. And you bring to light those concerns that you have. And what we're all trying to do is just make sure that our communication process is pristine at all times, and that you feel welcome to bring up any concern that you might have, because that's what we're here for. We're here for our young children, our young ladies and gentlemen, our young adults that come to us now, but we're also here for you. To know that you have a resource, and we want you to feel very, very comfortable to use it whenever you need it. Okay? So, without further ado, I turn it over to our experts here, and enjoy the morning.
Go get an expert.
Good morning. I'm going to try to use this microphone because I know I don't project very well. Can you hear me in the back? So I'm Leslie Hammer. Together, the three of us started up this resilience project about 3.5 years ago, in response to what we were seeing as an increase in students having a difficulty with coping skills and an increase in what seemed to be anxiety, depression, self-harming behaviors. And we weren't just seeing that here at the high school, but we were hearing it from the middle school counselors as well. So we really decided to take a deeper look into what we could do about this. And this is sort of what we've been coming up with. It's evolving over time, and Just to sort of fill you in on what we have been doing. We started out by collecting data from the school counselors here, looking into the sort of numbers that were involved, and that was fairly eye-opening to all of us. We started looking at research there, and there's a lot on this. Sonia Luther from Columbia University actually did research here in Westport for her work. We started looking at, what actually is normal for adolescents. We started looking at, people who were doing work on helping support students. So people like Angela Duckworth at University of Pennsylvania, who did some wonderful work on grit. Carol Dweck at Stanford University and her mindset theory, sort of fixed versus a growth mindset. And we've written about this in the past. We've looked at Martin Seligman and his positive psychology ideas, and we've incorporated that into emails that we send out. I hope you see them. They come out roughly once a month. If you've missed them, if you for some reason haven't seen them, you can find them. We have a website now, so they're all on there. And let's see, we've covered topics like optimism, mindfulness, the impact of technology on our young people, gratitude, all the things that we like people to be thinking about, because we really do believe that they come into play in helping to support healthy, resilient young people. We've incorporated these ideas into presentations like this, but also into the guidance department's PowerPoint presentations for parents when we're talking about the college process. We incorporated into PowerPoints for the students, so the sophomores when we're in their English classes, the juniors when we visit them to begin the post-high school planning process. Sort of every step of the way, we try to include these ideas as well. The three of us have also sort of, through the collaborative team, introduced these homework-free weekends. I hope your students took advantage of those. It's been over Thanksgiving break. There will be another one in the spring. This year we tried a technology break. I'm not sure that anybody outside of the counseling department did it, but we hope that it raised the conversation, and that from some of the feedback we heard, people sort of appreciate the idea and the suggestion that, you could step away, even if it's for a meal, not a day, but just to have that some time when it's put away by everybody, and so that they're really just there face to face. We've introduced a mindfulness app called Stop, Breathe, Think to the freshman health classes, and that seems to have been a big hit. We've heard from some students who then we might see afterward that they have been using it and trying it. It has a lot of mindfulness meditations that will help them relax. Some of them are specifically geared towards falling asleep, and they're tailored for the students. So when they log in, they will say, they're asked, how are you feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, and then it sort of offers them up several different options of varying lengths that they might try at that moment. So, we hope this is another tool that they can use. And then right now, as we speak, they're setting up milk and cookies. We've been offering those to the students during the breaks between their midterm exams and their final exams for the last couple of years, and they seem to really like it. And along with the milk and cookies, they have to take a little fortune, and they're usually just a positive thought for the day. And they seem to actually really like those a lot. Sometimes they just come by and take a fortune and leave the cookies.
So thank you to the PTA for funding that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we've seen ripple effects from these ideas sort of going throughout the building. The physical education department has really picked up on these ideas and run with it, incorporating mindfulness practice and yoga into their classes, not just the health classes, but into the other exercise classes as well. The English department has included resilience as a vocabulary word, as have the world languages. In fact, every language is using it. So we've got resiliencia, we've got elasticita, remondir, and these words come up in conversation when they are learning about indigenous populations in the Americas, for instance, in their Spanish classes, or lessons about China's pro-democracy movement in the Mandarin classes. And in French class, they're talking about the resistance and the disapproval that the early Impressionist painters encountered when they first introduced their new aesthetic. And of course, they were resilient. The library has started offering, adult coloring books seem to have become very popular as a way of relaxing, so the librarians have now got those in stock for the students to come in. You know, they have a break, they have a free period, they want to just chill out for a little bit, they can come in and color. The town brought in Linda Lantieri, who's the author of a book called Building Emotional Intelligence. She did wonderful presentations for parents, for faculty, and for local mental health professionals recently, and she was really wonderful. So we are thrilled that these ideas are sort of spreading throughout the community, and we're hopeful that they are making a difference, even if it is on a small level. Standing shoulder to shoulder with us in this crusade, if you would, are the school psychologists, the social workers here in the building, and a growing number of teachers as well. And of course, our department, the counseling department, is amazing, and all of these ideas really come out of what counseling is all about. So school counselors are trained to support the needs of the whole child, their social, their emotional, their cognitive, academic, career aspirations, and yes, of course, college. In considering all of these aspects, we do so through a developmental lens. So when we're working with our students, we're keeping this in mind, and we're knowing that yes, the synapses in their prefrontal cortexes are still being pruned, and that region won't fully mature until they're 25 years old. So yes, they're still inclined to leap before they look. At this age, it's their job to develop a sense of their own unique identity, and this is subject to change on a whim, without notice, on a weekly basis, and frankly, it's just kind of fun to watch them do this. Their social world is very complex, and it's of the utmost importance to them. So with this generation's technological connectedness, it's actually never ever out of reach to them. And they're young, and they lack the perspective that they will have 10 years from now, 20 years from now. They haven't yet had many disappointments or losses, thankfully. And so they haven't really had the experience yet of figuring out how to move forward from those. They're awash in hormones, and they're sleep deprived. So take this, multiply it by about 1,850, put them all in one building for about 7 hours a day, and then they realize that they have internalized the message that they need to take the most rigorous course loads possible. They think that certainly they have to have 2 APs in junior year and 3 in their senior year. They need to get A's in those classes. They need to perform community service work. They need to co-captain 2 sports. They feel that they need to develop their musical talent to the point where they're recognized on at least a state level. They think they need to demonstrate leadership ability and find a way to differentiate themselves from all the other talented kids here, not just at Staples, but across the country, because they have come to believe that, of course, the top colleges have their pick from all of them. Is it any wonder that they're anxious, depressed, feeling inadequate, exhausted? It doesn't have to be like this, really, and we truly believe this. And it's our hope that together we can change this misguided attitude. So with this as a backdrop, when the PYD asked us to speak to you today, we could have gone in a number of different directions. We thought about stress reduction, because they need it. We talked about mindfulness, and these are really helpful, but we really instead jumped on scheduling. We believe that the lives that these teenagers lead are without a doubt overscheduled, and we see the fallout from that really every day in our offices. So Deb's going to give you a perspective on the big picture of the days and the weeks and the school years, and then Vicky's going to give you a lot of specific information about academic scheduling, which will take place over the next couple of months for the next school year. You'll notice themes, and please bear with us if we repeat ourselves sometimes, but mostly thank you for hearing us out.
I understand my voice carries, so, as my children like to tell me. So I might want to, am I too loud? It's okay, all right. So, first I want to acknowledge the environment in which you parent, okay? There is this ideal that I as a parent aspire to. However, often the people or this community I'm surrounded by work against me. And I mean, that's just a reality. You're under tremendous pressure in this environment to make sure that your child takes advantage of every possible opportunity he or she is offered, okay? You are also judged on a regular basis about your parenting in a way that I just don't remember my mother being judged. So let me just acknowledge that it's not easy before I present you with some sort of ideal ideas, okay? And if I can say one thing, it's to always remind yourself that you're in it for the long run. This is a snapshot in your child's life, okay? And there are so many messages that you can send that send have a long-term impact on your relationship with your child. And as I say to so many kids at my office, you know, you really don't want to peak in high school. You certainly didn't want to peak in middle school, and you don't want to peak in high school. You want to see a steady. I just had a wonderful conversation with a colleague whose son really struggled in middle school, struggled in high school socially, got better academically, went off to a nice college, graduated, took 6 months to get a job. And he's now 27, has worked for Apple, and now has an even better job, all on his own, slowly but steadily developing. Meanwhile, some of the, quote, superstars from his class that many years ago have fallen by the wayside. Okay, so you're going to be looking back on everything, so keep that in mind. Okay, so how do you actually put some of this in place? Okay, at all phases of this, I want you to remember that you are the adult and they are the child. Okay, I have a wonderful cartoon on my door that I never take down, and it's from Zitz, and he has his two parents sitting here, and he points to the board, and it says, I am right, and you are wrong. Let's go over this again, the child is saying. I am right, and you are wrong. So one of the most important things you can do as a parent is decide and discern for yourself, with your spouse or significant other, what are our core family values? And actually, achievement might be one of them. So acknowledge it up front if that is indeed the case. But I will push you to define what you mean by success, okay? And that can differ for every single family. Even if achievement and, quote, material success are your values, the research now is showing that the students who are pushed themselves too hard in high school don't fare well in college and afterwards in the job market, okay? They crash and burn, they're uncertain, they display further anxiety and depression in college. They don't negotiate well with their professors, and they have a difficult time being independent. So what can look like success in high school doesn't always translate to that later in life. And as I said earlier, you're in it for the long run. So what can you do? I would say it's important to have a conversation with your child about setting priorities. Before he or she takes on a new activity, ask her to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 on how fulfilling this activity is. My daughter played soccer and basketball as a freshman, liked them both, loved soccer, liked basketball. Something had to go. Sorry, basketball. And I tell the kids, every adult in your life believes the activity that you do with them is the most important activity. So the basketball coach thought basketball was the most important. Soccer thought soccer was the most important. Your English teacher thinks that subject is the most important. It's really hard for kids to be able to discern and be able to say no. They need your help with that. Oh, my mom won't let me play 2 sports. My mom won't let me play soccer year-round. When it came to Olympic development program that was on Sunday mornings, that everyone said my daughter had to do if she wanted to play in college, we said no, we go to church on Sundays. She's still playing soccer in college without having given up 5 hours commuting 2 hours each way to play soccer. It's okay to say no. But having your child rate an activity not as looking good on his or her resume or good for the colleges, but as fulfilling to them, that's the question you want to ask them. Understand developmentally the fear of missing out and acknowledge for them, yes, you might miss something, and it's okay. Know your child. I hear all the time, but she really wants to do that. He really wants to do that. You know your child best of all. My two children are completely different. My daughter has a tendency to push herself very hard, so I had to put brakes on her. My son needed to be pushed a little bit every once in a while, just clearly. So know your child and help him or her get to know themselves. Point out what's happened in the past when he or she took on too much. I've seen this happen, or I see this happen. Put guidelines in place. Okay, you can take that class, but if I see you having difficulty getting up in the morning, if I see you up till midnight every night, or I see you crying, the class has got to go. Set really clear expectations that his or her health will come first. Offer perspective. Everyone's stressed now. It's midterms time. That's normal. It's time limited. And guess what? Stress is also a motivator. It's not all negative. There's a big difference between my child is anxious and stressed because they have to take a midterm today, and my child is anxious and depressed for months on end. You alone can observe that. So when they're in a time-limited one, tell them, I know, this stinks, but it'll be over next Tuesday. Take a deep breath, eat well, and try to get to bed at a reasonable hour. In academics and activities, emphasize bouncing back over achievement. Nothing teaches children but what from they learn in actual experience. For my daughter, it was sports. So the times she was responsible for the team losing in the final. That was really hard for me to watch. Really hard. And she was in a lot of pain, and there wasn't a lot I could do. Guess what? She got through it, and it passed. What they learn about themselves in those difficult moments is indescribable. And because it mattered so much to her, she went on. Model that kind of behavior yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself. If you have kids in high school, it's all about yoga, exercise, meditation, and most of all, finding a really good friend that you can be completely honest with when you're having a hard time. Keep life normal at home. And don't take away the importance of things like chores and contributing to the family just because they're busy. They're going to be a roommate someday. They're going to be a spouse someday. So keep it simple. You always have to unload the dishwasher. And by the way, reminders are, just give it up. You're going to have to remind them every single time, developmentally. But it's okay. They do it. They're contributing to the family no matter what's going on in their lives. And finally, appreciate the sacredness of, as Denise Hope calls it, who works for the Challenge Success Project, play, family, and downtime. Try to have a meal or two a week where you just convene, everybody's cell phones left away, and sit down together and talk about something other than academics or college preparation. Make sure they have time every day, even if it means they're on Instagram, where they just get to go like this. Help them define what makes them feel that way. For some kids, being on media just ramps them up more. So help them define what works for them and make sure they get an hour of it every day. I give you permission to address the electronics issue head on. Many of these kids are sleep deprived because they have their cell phones up in their room. Yeah, I know they need it as an alarm. I invested in old-fashioned alarm clocks for both of my children.
Yeah.
They don't know how to turn it off. It's okay to set a time at night, make it 10:30 or 11 where the phone comes to you and goes in your bedside drawer. Believe me, most of them will actually be relieved by this, even if they do it kicking and fighting. So we're teaching them not only how to manage high school, but how to manage themselves as adults. I hope that helps with the overall picture. Mrs. Capozzi will now talk about academics at Staples. Thank you.
So I'm going to stand right here. I have a voice that projects, and I need to operate this as well. So let me direct you to the orange sheet here, please. I'm a big believer, and I know my colleagues are as well, that knowledge is power. And I also believe that if you have the information in front of you, that you can really hold on and never think that you're left in the dust. I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that our program, our entire Staples High School Guidance program, is what we believe to be developmental in nature and delivered at the most appropriate time for most students and families. developmentally, academically, socially, emotionally, psychologically. In regards to course scheduling in academics, I want you to take a peek at this and know that we've already started the course selection process. The inner workings here at Staples High School, counselors, middle school counselors have already met with department heads to discuss and review the course catalog. Some of you may have seen the course catalog was launched onto the Staples High School website yesterday. Today, before the end of the day, the entire community of parents and students, current grade 9, 10, and 11, will receive that course catalog in via Connect Ed message, which I believe pops into your emails. With the course, along with the course catalog, will be a comprehensive letter. In addition to this information, this is not the letter. The letter is actually looks something like this, but it's comprehensive in such that it gives you a lot of detailed information, more about the process and things to consider and think about when sitting with your sons and daughters to create a 4-year plan or to create a plan for next year, let's say. Let me direct you to what counselors call the 4-year plan. So here's a copy of the course catalog. I had my secretary print it for me this morning. I'm still old school. I like to hold on to things, and I didn't get to put my notes in it yet from the department heads when we met, but there'll be plenty of notes in here. But on the last page of the book, see, getting students and families to actually read sometimes doesn't really happen. I don't understand. Because everything that you need to know to feel empowered, I can assure you, you will know about via emails from Staples High School guidance, or in this instance, it comes through Connect Ed. But on the last page is a 4-year projected plan. Okay, we all know that sometimes our paths can have curves or left turns or right turns in them, but a 4-year projected plan. Now, some of you may have juniors currently and only need to continue to project out to grade 12. Our department met with sophomores recently, and it's actually in sophomore year that we ask students to project out to grade 11 and 12, because it's in grade 11 and 12 when there's a lot more choice for them, specifically in regards to elective classes. And for some academic areas, there is sort of a natural flow and a natural progression. And I say sort of because I need you to know that we don't track here at Staples High School. I think that there's a misconception that we track our kids. Okay? Students who might be in an AP type kid, they can opt to not take an AP. Okay? Students who are recommended for some B-level classes don't have to stay in that B-level, quote, track if they don't want to. They can work themselves out of there, they can stay there, or then this community has the option to override classes. Many communities don't have that option. Okay, so I kind of want you to look at that like, wow, you know, this community allows us the opportunity to really think carefully about what is best for our children, my particular child. So I do want to talk a moment about the override form. There's lots of areas that need to be filled in. This is an override form from last year. Okay? This form is not available yet, and it won't be available yet because of the timeline. We'll talk about more of the timeline in a moment. But there's lots of stuff in the middle that we work hard on writing in here that I oftentimes have to go back to a parent or a student and say, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And like, what are you talking about? Like, you have to read these before you sign them. Because when counselors really believe that teachers do have your child's best interest in mind when they are recommending classes. It's at this point in time now, from February 1 to from January 4th to February 1, where teachers are now thinking about course selection and course recommendations for your children for next year. Do overrides work sometimes? Absolutely. Do they not sometimes? Absolutely. Do we work very hard here at Staples High School to assure that your students find some success and feel good about themselves? Absolutely. I have to leave here and work with a student and a family who did 3 overrides. And the only class the kid is passing is the one who did not override. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to have, that young man can't feel good about those 3 Fs right now. Whether he tells me he doesn't care or not, I don't believe it. Our students kind of base a lot of their value on their grades. And there's going to be a shift here in this community, I believe, in the next 5 to 10 years away from that. That's a whole other topic. But we want kids to love learning for learning's sake. We want them to have fun in class and then let all the grades roll out. Because if they're doing that at the appropriate level, where they're still getting enough sleep, participating in class, getting grades that they feel good about, they are going to be viable high school citizens here. Viable, great, healthy adults when they get older. A couple things I'd like to point out about course selection. Teachers here at the high schools, particularly if you have a 9th grade student here, if you're a 9th grade parent, teachers here at the high school make their course recommendation for next year based on their course only. Okay? They don't see what the other teachers are recommending. And in general, let me say for the most part, they have no idea about your young son or daughter's outside commitments, personality type, intrinsic motivation, extracurricular activities, just passions. That's your job. It's our job too, but we don't live with your kids. We pride ourselves in knowing them because we will sit with them individually, starting with the current juniors the week of February 8th through 12th. Our community, from what we understand, ladies and gentlemen, is very, we're one of the only communities that we know of that sit with our students individually to go over course selection. Yeah. Actually, we have a brand new counselor in our office, and she said, "You do what?" I said, "Yeah." We sit individually with every child. She goes, "In between all of your junior parent meetings?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." She goes, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Well, we do it. It's tiring, but you know what? We counselors, I enjoy it. I know a lot of my other colleagues enjoy it. Are we exhausted at the end of the day? Yes. We particularly enjoy it when the parents listen to us. Like when a kid says, "Well, can I have 3 override forms before I leave your office?" I'm like, wait. Have a conversation, and those override forms never come back, or maybe only one comes back. Current juniors, for a week, kids are expected to make appointments with us. They're expected to show up for their appointments. Do they all do that? No. We have a week in between where we kind of find those stragglers, because developmentally, right, these kids are going to forget their appointments, and half of them won't write it down anywhere or even put it in their phone. They just say, "I'm going to remember." No, it doesn't work. Then we'll have current sophomores come in for a week again. Their timing is a little scattered because we have some other stuff going on here during that time, like juniors taking SATs. A week in between to pull our stragglers in. Then the current freshmen. Then we have another week to get the stragglers from all grades. And then at the end of March, we shut down. The system gets shut down. We make sure as counselors, every kid gets input for some scheduling. There will be a handful of kids on each of our caseloads that we don't see at all. We'll call home, we'll try and get them in. But at some point in time, we have to get information in for our students because everybody will have a schedule. And the way that this process works is a bazillion times that the kids can even come in later on and add in some electives. Course selection is not just about academics. It's about electives as well. We have students who choose, I have 2 kids this year who chose to opt out of a 3rd year of a language and opt into their specialty areas. Theater, directing, art. It's about individual choice. One student's schedule may be very appropriate for them and not for the other. However, it's human nature to compare ourselves to others, right? And teenagers, that's all they do. My desktop, my desktop in my office is happiness comes when you stop comparing yourself to others. And the kids laugh at me. I'm like, ah, extra, let's do what's right for you. So at the end of March, override forms, the last override form we will take is March 31st. That is a hard, strict deadline. And we hold to it. My boss put that into play years back when we first started together, and it has been very helpful because what the community doesn't understand is then we need like a full month and a half for the administration to now work these numbers. Work how many sections do we need of certain areas, certain classes. And then the department heads need to figure out their staffing. And the administration needs to figure out the infrastructure in the building. There's been some concern in the past that this process starts very early. And we want to get the information out to you that this is why. It's not because we just need to get it over with and get it done. It's because there's procedures that we go through and we need time to do this. In early June, students will receive their schedules before they leave for the summer in their homerooms. And I don't know the exact percentage. I know it was quite high last year. I want to say like 87% of students who asked for courses received a 100% completed schedule before they left in June. The rest, we work with in guidance during what we call conflict resolution time to set them up with a complete schedule before they leave in June. So we work hard to work with your students to empower them to choose for themselves only. We understand that there's a lot of things, a lot of information that you hear from the community and even colleges themselves that put pressure on your kids to maybe choose classes that they weren't even thinking of, or to choose a level that they really like, well, I don't really want to do that, but I think I'm supposed to. I want to encourage you and empower you to take a step back and think about that carefully and make a phone call to the counselors if you have questions. Because oftentimes, what you hear out in the community or even at the college level is not really 100% true. I would encourage you to also use Naviance. Why don't I have it there, Tom? There it is. I would encourage you to utilize the tools that we already have here, ladies and gentlemen. Naviance, Family Connection.
Take that green sheet off the top of the projector. It's blocking the top of the screen.
Thanks, Tom. Naviance, Family Connection. I believe is one of the most utilized piece of technology that we have here at St. High School for the entire community. I know we use it all the time, but the community has the ability to get in there and view what your sons and daughters have done or will be doing in Naviance. For instance, I can show you. 9th graders, each year, current 9th graders have not done this yet and will be doing this. We have what we call a do-what-you-are personality type indicator.
But let me just point out, because Vicki's making a great point, when I talked about get to know your child,
Yes.
reviewing the do what you are gives you a very insightful view as to who your child is in terms of determining level of motivation, downtime needed, possible future careers, lots of information about understanding your child as a learner.
Yes, thank you, Deb, for following up on that. We're leaving as much as we need.
Yeah, we gotta
Finish
up.
because we want to give you time for question and answer. Just know, 9th grade, do what you are personality type indicator. Grade 10, career interest profiler. Grade 11, scattergrams and college searching. In grade 12, we do all of our college admissions through Naviance. Now, we've been kind of told in the past that we start the college process too late. And I want to beg to differ right now and just say that really we start the post-secondary planning process, which includes college, in grade 9, when we start talking about personality type and careers. We want kids leaving here and going to a college where they fit and are happy and going to be studying something that they might enjoy for the rest of their life. Question and answer, you think?
Yep.
Utilize the back page of the orange sheet for questions to consider when sitting with your children to do post-scheduling and selection. Question and answer, it's your turn. We know you wanted that today.
Can I ask a question?
By all means.
For instance, my children are very interested in doing the cooking class. And we never get to get an assignment. What is the strategy to be able to get in one of those classes? Because I know it's very competitive.
It is competitive. Want me to answer?
Yeah, are your children juniors yet?
Right now I have a sophomore, but I have one coming now as a freshman.
I think what I would say is, number one, let the counselor know it's important to them. It's often extremely difficult for sophomores to get the class. And I will let you know it's not as much fun for them when they're sophomores because they much prefer when they're with their kids. For kids who are deeply interested in culinary, you can still do culinary 1 and 2 as a junior. I think that you can't control what the computer is going to bump out into your child's schedule. The academics will always be prioritized first, and then the PE, and then if there's room, it'll fit in. However, the adjustment that occurs over into June and then into September. For example, I had a freshman who really wanted intro programming, okay? She wanted it really badly and didn't get it. I just got a spot for her yesterday in 2nd semester. So if the counselor's aware that this is a priority to your child and your child lets him or her know that, rather the child let me know than the parent, that's not a promise, but we can certainly make it more of a priority.
Thank you.
What I can say, culinary is not available to
There's a little
9th
screen.
graders. They can start requesting it in grade 10. Because it's such a popular elective, it is run for seniors first, then juniors, then sophomores.
Thank you.
So they will get it before they graduate.
Maybe or maybe not. But it's
No, they won't get it.
They
If
would.
they're on my case, well, they're getting it. Go ahead.
2 quick questions. One, under the graduation credit and distribution requirements, engineering is posted under art. Does that mean any course that has the engineering title counts towards an art credit?
Counts towards the practical art credit at this point in time.
It does.
Yes.
Okay, the second question I have.
And science. Depends on where your student needs it.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. The second question has to do with whether or not, when a teacher is making a recommendation, by department, is there a GPA cutoff at which there is a minimum?
For some classes, yes.
So for some classes, yes. So what I would say is
It's the teacher's prerogative. So in other words, you can't make that generalization, but for example, I know that for certain math classes, there will be not a GPA, but an average in that class, expectation that they have seen kids meet, because math is very objective, that they have seen kids achieve to be successful in the following class. So they want to make it, I'm going to say, it's typically science or math classes that will do that because they're considered, they're taking cumulative tests. But built into that usually is also motivation, but for some teachers.
So it's up to the individual teacher what
Exactly.
the GPA requirement is. It has nothing to do with the department.
it depends on the class, it depends on the department. If there's GPA, a grade, I'm not gonna say GPA, grade requirements
That's
to
what I'm
move
saying,
on. For department, it would be listed under the specific classes. The department heads worked real hard this year in getting as much information underneath each course description for you to know.
So it would say,
Okay.
a recommendation,
I have the old
not
course
prerequisite, but recommended would be a certain grade in a certain class.
And sorry, one more? Is there any kind of capstone for certain grades? I mean, I remember 2 years ago, they were talking about things having to be filled out for kids graduating in 2000, like a certain kind of
Still in
project.
conversation.
Still a conversation,
Oh, so
not,
it hasn't happened
not
yet?
yet, don't have to worry about it. So far, we're looking at class of 2020, we're working on that. You have a question?
Just as the recommendation of the GPA, like, my daughter was in an AP class last year that had 40 kids, like a ridiculous amount of kids. When we went into the classroom, it was an English like class.
There's
a
never
board
40 kids in a
something
class.
like
It's a board limit, like it's a
more.
Board of Ed issue.
You know, but no, what I'm saying is, when we went to open house, the first week of school or whatever, I guess the teacher did an assessment. And she said half the kids in this class don't belong in this class. So when you're saying like a cutoff of the GPA, like,
Yeah, listen, there's recommendations, there's prerequisites, there's recommendations or guidelines, and then there's overrides. So there's kids in classes that have overrode
so half the
in.
kids in that class would say if she was accurate in her assessment, were there on an override?
I don't want to say half, I don't have the numbers for you,
I'm just
but
saying, like,
possibly
if it's-
there's going to be a handful of kids or two that might be in a class that have overridden in and have to figure out or work their butt off to get to the point where they're going to feel comfortable in that class and catapult forward with success.
Typically, that kind of assessment is given, and yeah, I agree, let's not use the GPA thing, right?
Yeah.
That GPA thing is like this generic word that we all use. Typically, the teacher gives that assessment so the students understand upfront how much work the class is going to be.
It's also an
okay.
evaluation for the teacher to understand
Right.
who's in front of them, and
Exactly,
how do I
exactly,
operate in
right,
here?
Exactly.
Math teachers usually do it within the first week of class, first week and a half.
World language teachers do it within the first 2 weeks, and they get to us right away. There's a lot of shifting the first 4 weeks of school, a lot.
Good questions, yes.
Hi, I have a freshman, so I'm sort of a newbie.
Yeah.
Could you briefly address grading for honors classes as opposed to B level, C level? So if your son or daughter gets a C plus in an honors class, is that weighted differently somewhere along the lines, or how, can you just
Yeah, so-
address that?
We're going to go do it, and then you chime in. In the course catalog, as well as the student handbook, all over the website will actually be the grading scale, the GPA grading scale.
The grid.
The grid. So, and it's also listed on our school profile, which is on our website. So a C plus in an honors class gets a weight of 2.67 when their cumulative GPA is calculated.
And is that on each report card it's calculated, or is that at the end?
No, that's only for the year-end grade.
Okay.
So
All that matters, by the way, is the year-end grade.
on the transcript, all that matters for the transcript going off to college is the final year grade.
So I'm gonna argue that all that matters all in all is the year-end.
Weighted and unweighted, we
Okay.
have on there.
That was my question, as to when are we seeing that difference? Was it first quarter? Did you see it?
No, you will
No.
not see it till the end of freshman year. The end of freshman year, a transcript, only at the end, so all these GPAs that are on home access and report cards and all that, it's a great opportunity for us to say, "Mwah, misinformation," or not misinformation, let me be appropriate, it's not misinformation, but it is, it's not overall information, it's timely information. So if you want to know how your child is doing in a given moment, it can give accurate information. What we try to encourage the kids to do is to understand, and you as adults understand this, that the big picture is the full year, right? So you want to, if you're looking at a GPA in space and time, you really want to look, what we want the parents and kids to look at is that class and how they're doing in that individual class.
As a
Okay.
freshman parent, I want to thank you for that question, because it's confusing.
It's
It is.
very confusing.
And we've actually
We're
put-
frustrated.
We put it in our PowerPoints every year. I don't know if it's in our freshman PowerPoint, it might be in.
It is.
The
report card
GPA
GPAs.
that gets listed on the report card is
It's not
quarterly
helpful.
and overall at the A level only. So even if you have a kid taking an honors level class, he's gonna get weight on the report card at the A level only. It gets recalculated with weight at mid-year and at the end of the year only. Is it confusing? Yes.
Yes.
Do counselors like it? No. Do we have power over it? No.
We wish it was consistent, so you
Right.
knew what was going on. And so I'm gonna say, just like I said, you have to make individual decisions for your own children. You've got to look and see, how are they doing in this class? If they're not doing well consistently, maybe we need to think about a change. If it's just a bump in the road, I have had a couple students in panic stricken because they were out sick,
they didn't do well on a test or quiz, and now suddenly things have plummeted. That's like the midterm thing. That is a blip in time. I said to him, if we looked at what percentage of your year-end grade this would be, it would be tiny. You can come back from this, okay? I need you to, and they need help with that. Like, don't freak out if there's one test or quiz they don't do well on. If there's a pattern, then maybe we need to look at a level or class change.
What about quarterly honors and second honors notices? Are those unweighted or are they?
Unweighted. The honors, first honors, second honors is calculated via overall GPA. I would encourage you folks to read the student handbook. All in, remember I said about reading before? It's all there. But first honors, second honors is
Unweighted,
calculated on the overall unweighted GPA.
okay?
Go ahead in the back.
All this information that you're giving to us now related to GPAs and numbers like that and stuff. So all these students, they are very much aware of all of these, or we parents have to be after every single detail? How does that work?
Well, why do they need to be aware of all of it all the time?
No, I mean, it sounds like that we need to be making sure of all of these things. I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
What things?
How these things are explained
When,
about.
when we meet with freshmen, we show them a transcript.
Yeah.
And we reinforce for them in our small group meetings with them that what matters is the year-end grade. What we could use your help with is reinforcing that message.
Got it.
If you take away one message, it's that, what is your final grade in the year for this class? And that if you're consistently not doing well, maybe we need to talk about a change.
Got it.
Okay, would that help to have two messages? Because they do, it is, if it's confusing for us, imagine what it's like for them. So
Listen, they
rather
know
than
more
having
than
them
we know.
focus on all these numbers, I just want to look at how they're doing in an individual
Yeah,
class.
yeah. No, because my approach with my children is that I want them to be self-sufficient. They need to figure out all this. We talk about it. We eat together every evening, figure out what are the problems. But I don't know, just to get into all of these, it just kind of makes me dizzy.
I agree, and we just want to create, there's so many.
It's dizzying for us if we do it for a living.
You know, we're sympathetic, let's say that.
Can I just, as one of the PYD reps, to reiterate what you just said, I have a sophomore and a junior, and only a few months ago, on the Staples High School website, there's a link called Parent Handbook. And I sat at my computer for 30 minutes, but I read it cover to cover. And almost every one of these questions, it explains it, it makes sense. Now you
Excellent,
know what
Donna.
page
Thank
to
you.
go back to. Oh, what's the requirement here? And it's such a source of fabulous information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Parent
awesome.
handbook and the student handbook.
Right. And
And now it's a lot of it is repeated in the course catalog.
Right. Gives you power, as you said, knowledge is
Knowledge
power.
is power.
And you can show it to your kids and have them read it. if they're-
Do you have, when a student comes to you, do you recommend to them that, like, if they shouldn't take more than three AP classes in 1 year, or is it totally individual?
No general rule.
No
Like I
general
said, I
rule.
have two.
You
Individual
have your gut
process.
recommendation of
You
what is?
know your child, okay? Now, it's harder when they come in as freshmen, and I think, you know, you really have to speak with the counselor, but I would, we are really, I hope we know your children. And at this point, I can usually tell, but sometimes we're guessing a little bit, is that too much for that child? And we will ask them, what are you doing outside? Help them sit down and decide, how many hours is this gonna take in one day? They're so unrealistic, okay? What hour?
Yeah, we have historical
Okay,
data.
I know nothing as a parent.
How have they
Of course.
done, you know, they also like to ignore facts. Oh, it doesn't matter, when I'm a junior, I'm gonna focus and we'll be fine. Okay, it does happen, but if you set them up for a realistic schedule that helps them feel good about themselves.
We also know that somehow, because we're not their parent, we sometimes have more power. I use it.
So call us ahead of time. Call us ahead of
Shoot us an
time.
email, like, help, he's not getting off this AP track, and like, I think three's gonna be too much, and
Call us especially if it's not your interest.
Of
You know,
course.
That's like.
First thing
you
we
know,
say to
like
the
that's-
kids, only take an AP if it interests you.
You
Oh
know,
my
if it's
God,
not your
it's
trajectory.
brutal if you're
where
But
not.
you
listen,
want
that's
to-
not
like,
always the message they're getting in the community,
Well, that's the problem.
okay? I worked with a student and family for the whole semester, and just got the email yesterday, like, it's time to withdraw him from that class. Now,
Can
when
you
we-
do that at this point?
with a W on the transcript, yes, you can. The handbook has the rules. There's a certain amount of time we can take something out, like, and show that it was never there. But listen, this is not Burger King High School. You can't have it your way all the time. You can certainly, we're bound by rules ourselves, right? We have administrative policies we have to follow, but this young man took this class because he was told that he needed to have an AP. For what? Okay, need and want, desire, those are all different words. Well, you know what? He's failing
And
it.
let me just say, when we say community, we're also talking about their peers, right? We understand that it's not just the
And their
parents at
peers.
home, it's, I heard so-and-so compare and despair, okay? And they need a lot of help resisting that and making the choices that are right for them.
Well, like, the example, last night, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine who lives in Florida, in Boca, and her daughter goes to the school there, and she, in her junior year, is taking 5 AP classes. And I was texting her back, OMG, like, isn't
Why?
that a lot? Like, are you 5? And plus she's going for DECA in the state, running for, and all these things, and I'm
Now,
like,
let me say, there's a small percentage of people, kids, who can do that and be okay and be healthy. Small.
very small. I mean,
Maybe it's a kid.
I didn't think it was allowed here, except for, let's say, the valedictorian or, like a handful.
There's no real limitations
people-
here.
And let me just build on this, okay? My nephew and nieces have gone to high schools where if you didn't take AP classes, you weren't really getting college preparatory work, okay? So APs are not equal from high school to high school.
That's what
He was at a high school where nobody had ever gotten above a 2 on the AP bio exam, okay? So be very careful about comparing to children who are taking classes. We offer college preparatory work from the B level upwards. So you don't, when you go to the colleges and they say you need 10 APs, well, not necessarily from Staples is the point we're
Well,
trying
do
to make.
colleges know that? Or
Yes,
they say,
yes,
oh,
yes,
oh,
yes,
oh,
yes,
oh,
yes.
all
So,
right.
yes.
You know, our students go to college and do well, okay? If they choose correctly and do the best they can. But in general, academic preparation is not the issue.
In
Okay,
general.
emotional preparation, independence of work habits. I could do a whole session on what
Come
it
to
takes
how
to
to
make
raise an
in
adult
college.
seminar.
Yeah.
This would be about how to make sure your kid doesn't drop out of college.
All the literature at the college level, or a lot of the literature at the college level, are how are the counseling centers keeping up? Like, they're not. They're concerned. And college admissions is in the business of accepting kids who are going to stay, because I use the word business. College admissions is a business. There's money involved. They want kids and students and families who are going to stay.
If you want to take one more question, just because I know that you guys have to get back to.
We have an 11 o'clock staff meeting. We can do this all day.
No, my question is that I have a friend who has been trying to convince me that I should already start putting my kids to some special school after to pay like, I don't know, $8,000 to make sure they get into the right university. Blah, blah. What is your take?
I love you.
I don't know, so let you know.
Okay, so that's the stuff that goes, that's the stuff you'll hear in the community. And ladies and gentlemen, we understand that many students and families in the community will use academic counselors or college consultants, and they're, again, this is a business, and some students and families like to try and package themselves. We work on the premise that that is not a necessity. We can do all of that here. However, you as an individual family can choose to go that route or not. Now,
It's up to you.
it's up to you. It's expensive, and many families in Westport don't have to worry about the money piece of it. I would encourage you and beg you, if you take that route, to assure that you do it with a company or an advisor or somebody who's going to look at your child as a whole and do what's appropriate for your child, okay, overall. So they could be looking at just academics. We have a little bit of a problem in town where people are recommending what courses kids should be taking without asking the question of, what are you doing outside of the home? What are your extracurriculars like? What's your intrinsic motivation like? What's your personality type like? How often are you getting your grades because you're handing stuff in late and teachers are allowing that to happen? So if you're going to use somebody on the outside, use somebody that is going to operate similarly to like how we operate, that they can give you more individualized attention. Do you need to do it? I'm going to thank you not. Save your money, buy a car for them. Pay college tuition.
Really, there we go.
Thank you